Okay, so in this video, we are going to be going over and teaching/reviewing how to add and subtract fractions and mixed numbers with unlike denominators. Okay, so this is when it gets a bit more challenging, unlike denominators. Now, this might be a breeze for you, and if that's the case, then great. We're only spending today on this. Now, example 1, 5/4 plus 1/2. Okay? So, they have different denominators. 5/4. So let's just show what that is. Okay. So we have these chocolate bars, and they're broken into fourths. Okay, fourths, 4 pieces. So 5/4, well, that's 5 pieces when the item is broken into 4 pieces. So 5/4 plus 1/2. Okay, well, half is like that. But this piece is not the same size as those pieces. So we know, hey, break this into fourths. Okay, this is actually 2/4. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 fourths. We have 7 pieces when items are broken into fourths, into 4s. But it's really obnoxious to have to draw pictures all the time, and it's not always easy like that, just to split it up. Sometimes they're going to be nasty denominators. So what you have to find is the least common multiple, okay? The LCM, least common multiple. So what that is, that's the smallest number that both 4 and 2 go into. So how do you write it? Just find the factors of 4. Is factors the right word? I mean, I think it's factors. Okay, so what are factors of 4? So 4, 8, 12, we're counting by 4s. So just do 3 of each. What are factors of 2? 2, 4, 6. Hey Google, what does the word factor mean in math?
On the website Britannica.com, they say, factor, in mathematics, a number or algebraic expression that divides another number or expression evenly.
Okay, Google, stop. So, now what we have to do. Which number do they both have in common that's the smallest? Well, we know if we kept going with 2s, they would both have 8 in common, but 4. 4 goes into 4 one time, and 2 goes into 4 twice. So we can make both denominators 4. Okay, well look, the first denominator already has 4 as the denominator. The first fraction already has 4 as the denominator, so we just bring it right down. But we got to change the second one. Now we know 1/2, half of this Pop-Tart is actually 2 out of 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 2/4. So how do we get 2 to become a 4? Well, 2 times 2 is 4. What we do to the bottom, we have to do to the top. 1 times 2 is 2. So 1/2 and 2/4 are the same. They're equivalent fractions. They're equal. So now we can add these fractions because they have like denominators. They're like fractions. They have a common denominator. So you keep the denominator the same. It's broken into fourths. 5 plus 2 is 7. So, like the Pop-Tarts told us, we have 7/4. And you can leave it as an improper fraction or a fraction greater than 1. That's fine. All right, so let's do another example. So let's say we have 5/3 plus 2/4. So count by 3s and count by 4s and try to find the least common multiple. What are we going to change both denominators into? Try it on your own and then resume the video. So counting by 3s. 3, 6, 9, 12. Okay, let's count by 4s. 4, 8, 12. Oh, they both have 12. Okay, circle it. That's it. That's the smallest number that they have in common. That's the LCM. So we're going to change both denominators into 12. Okay, so how do we get 3 to become a 12? Well, 3 times what is 12? 3 times 4 is 12. What we multiply the denominator by, we multiply the numerator by. So if we multiply 3 by 4, then we have to multiply 5 by 4. 5 times 4 is 20. So we have 20 twelfths. That's exactly the same as 5 thirds. We just simplified it. I mean, we just actually made it bigger. We unsimplified it so that we can have a common denominator. All right, and now we're going to do 2 fourths. So how are we going to make that 4 become a 12? Well, we know that 4 times 1, 2, 3 is 12. So if we multiply the bottom by 3, we have to multiply the top by 3. So 2 times 3 is 6. So 6 twelfths. And now you just add the fractions. Keep the denominator, twelfths. 20 plus 6, 26 twelfths. And you can leave it like that. That's fine. You can enter that in Khan Academy. You can simplify it. 26 and 12 are both even numbers. So we know 2 goes into both of them. How many times does 2 go into 26? Well, we know that 26 divided by 2 is 13. How many times does 2 go into 12? Well, we know that 12 divided by 2 is 6. So you can simplify it to 13 sixths or 2 and 1/6. Because 6 goes into 13 2 times with 1/6 left over. All right, it's the same method when you are subtracting fractions. So when you're subtracting fractions with unlike denominators. So for example, 9/8 minus 5/12. First, you have to find the least common multiple. What's the smallest number that both of these go into? Technically, you don't have to find the smallest, but that's going to make it be the prettiest fraction that you don't have to simplify a ton. So, 8 and 12. So a trick is you can actually multiply these by each other. 8 times 12 is 96, but that might not be the smallest. So let's count by 8. We got 8. I'm going to stop once I know that 12 goes into the number. 16, 24. Oh, 24. It's going to be 24 because 12, 24. Both 8 and 12 go into 24. So how are we going to get 8 to become 24 as the denominator? Well, 8 times what is 24? 3. So 8 times 3 is 24. What we do to the bottom, we have to do to the top. So 9 times 3 is 27. Bring down that minus sign. And now let's do the same thing with 5/12. So we need to get that 12 to become a 24. 12 times what is 24? Times 2. So if we multiply the denominator by 2, we have to multiply the numerator by 2. 5 times 2 is 10. All right, and now we have 2 like fractions. We have 2 fractions with common denominators, so we can subtract them. 27 minus 10 is 17. And remember, when you're adding or subtracting fractions, you just keep the denominator the same. So 17/24. Now, sometimes they're not just going to be improper fractions or just fractions. Sometimes they're going to be mixed numbers. Okay? So, let's say, I'm just making sure this is the same notes I wanted to do. Yeah, it is. Okay, so let's say, example 4, eight and a half minus 3/5. Now, we can't just subtract the fractions like we did before. We can't just focus on the whole numbers and focus on the fractions because these fractions don't have the same denominator. So you might think, okay, well, screw the 8. Let's just focus on the fractions. Let's make them have a common denominator. 2 and 5 both go into 10. So I know that this is going to be, well, 2 times 5 is 10. So 1 times 5. So 5/10 is the same as 1/2. And then 5 into 10. So 5 times 2 is 10. And 3 times 2 is 6. So I know that now I have like denominators. But 5/6 minus 6/10, 5/10 minus 6/10, now that's getting into a negative fraction. Oh, that's just ugly and complicated. Okay? So this is when we're going to have to get into changing the mixed number to a fraction greater than 1. So, you guys have done this before. You've changed mixed numbers into improper fractions. So you keep the base the same. You keep the denominator the same. The denominator is 2, so you bring the 2 down there. Now, 2 times 8 is 16, plus 1 more. So 2 times 8 is 16, plus 1, 17. So 17 over 2 is the same as 8.5. And you can check it. How many times does 2 go into 17? 8 whole times, and that's 16, with 1 left over, 1/2 left over. Okay, so now we have 17 over 2 minus 3/5. So we changed the first fraction. We changed 8.5 into 17 over 2. And then we just brought down the minus and 3/5. So now it looks like the other problems we were doing earlier. Now we have to make them have a common denominator. And we know it's going to be 10, because 2 and 5 both go into 10. 2 times what is 10? 2 times 5 is 10. If we multiply 2 by 10, we have to multiply 17 by, oh my goodness. Okay, let's try that again. 2 times 5 is 10. What we multiply the bottom by, we multiply the top by. So 17 times 5. And I recommend you guys don't use calculators for these activities today. Practice your long math skills. So 17 times 5. 7 times 5 is 35. 1 times 5 is 5, plus 3, 85. So we have 85 tenths. Minus, how do we get 5 to 10? Times it by 2. So 3 times 2 is 6. So 6 tenths. So now we have 2 common denominators, 2 like fractions. 85 minus 6, 79 tenths. And you can leave it like that. Or you can write it like, how many times does 10 go into 79? 7 whole times, because that's 70. Well, we still have 9 left over, and 9 tenths. Either one of those is fine. Okay, let's do one more like that. So, what number is that? 4. Okay, 5. And guys, if you aren't understanding this, call me or log on, and we'll log on to Zoom, or I'll help you over the phone. I just want to review this because you got to have this foundation. All right, let's do 5 and 7/8 no, did we minus last time? Yeah, we did. So let's do plus. 5 and 7/8 plus 1 and 1/3. Okay, so I would recommend you guys pause this one and try it on your own. Now, what we do first, do they have the same denominator? Can we just add them easily? No. Now, you could change the fractions to have the same denominator, add the bases, and then add the fractions, but that's honestly more complicated in my opinion. I find it easiest to just change them both to improper fractions, or fractions greater than 1. So what you do is bring down the same denominator, 8. Okay? 8 times 5 plus 7. 8 times 5 is 40, plus 7, 47. Bring down the plus sign. All right, bring down the same denominator, 3. 3 times 1 plus 1. Well, 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 more is 4. Okay? So now we just have two fractions that we have to add. We need to first make them have a common denominator. So 8 and 3, what's the least common multiple? What number do they both go into? Well, let me count by 8s. 8, nope. 16, nope. 24, yep. Both 8 and 3 go into 24. So 24 for both of them. I'm just going to write that so I don't forget. So 8 to 24, times it by 3. So if I times the bottom by 3, I got to times the top by 3. 47 times 3. So 47 times 3. 7 times 3, 21. Put down the 1, carry the 2 for 20. 4 times 3 is 12, 13, 14. So 141. All right, now let's do the other fraction. So 3 to 24, times it by 8. What we do to the denominator, we do to the numerator. 4 times 8, 32. So now we have two like fractions, two fractions with common denominators that we can add. So keep the denominator the same. It's broken into 24ths. 141 plus 32. 1 plus 2 is 3. 4 plus 3 is 7. 1 plus nothing is 1. 173 over 24. You can leave it like that. Or a trick that many of you guys might not know. Let me go get my calculator. Now, if you don't actually have the proper calculator, then you can't do this. But a way to test it in your calculator, if it's simplified, type it in. So 173, ABC button, 24, and press equals. And it'll simplify it for you. So this is the same as 7 and 5/24. But you can leave it as either of these. Either one of these is fine. So that means that 24 goes into 173 7 times with 5 as the remainder, so 5/24.